remember to flip this video in post or people get really confused as to why I'm driving a European car, which I'm not. It's that time again for another car video because I don't have time to do anything, but it's for good reasons. I've been doing this now for a couple of years on YouTube, and I have certainly noticed that around December, around the holidays, I don't post very well. Unlike other times of the year when I am super stressed and feeling like I don't have time to do things periodically. In December, I'm just too busy having fun doing other things, and as much joy as the YouTube channel brings me, and as much as I do enjoy updating it, it falls to the bottom of my list of things that I want to get to because there's so many other things to do this time of year, including Christmas shopping and decorating cookies and doing all sorts of stuff. This weekend, I spent the entire weekend decorating cookies. I've mentioned before on my channel, but I will mention again, I think once a year in a December video, I talk about cookie decorating. It is a hobby of mine. I very much enjoy decorating sugar cookies, and I don't do it often enough, so I get really into it at Christmas time because it's the one time a year that I can really delve into this really fun hobby of mine. And so it took me all weekend to decorate the majority of the cookies that I baked. It was a lot of fun, but that's where the majority of my time went. So here I am trying to film a video while I'm driving around for work so that I get something out. I'm going to do a nice video for my 2-year update. I certainly want to spend the time and the energy to put together a good 2-year Surgiversary update, and that's just not going to happen in December. So sometime in January, I'm going to make sure to do a 2-year update, nice full-fledged deep dive update into 2 years post-op. So for now, I'm just going to update with what's been going on for the last 2 weeks because it has been a couple of weeks since I've put out a video, and I've been really delving into a lot more of the mental health journey, but in a very specific way. I'm always talking about the mental health side of this journey, and I'm always talking about how important that is. And I've been reading a lot of books lately, and I've been absorbing a lot of material, videos, documentaries, books, a lot of information to really feel like I can be knowledgeable and understand this process. One of my subscribers, I will find the comment and I will put it on the screen because that's the appropriate thing to do. But one of my subscribers recommended a book to read, which I promised I would get to after the current book I was reading was over, and so I did. I purchased it and I read through it. It was actually a fairly quick read, and it was called Weight Loss Surgery Does Not Cure Food Addiction. And I will put a link to that in my description, as well as show a picture here so you can see what the book was. I thought this book was very helpful for some insight into some of the things that I have been delving into in the last couple of weeks, and really was relevant to my life now, although the book is really focused, just FYI, on setting up what food addiction is, because apparently there is argument in the scientific community, more so between like surgeons and the psychiatric community, but on whether or not food addiction is a legitimate thing, which blew my mind because it seems like a no-brainer to me. But as a food addict, I guess it would seem like a no-brainer to me, wouldn't it? People who have never experienced addiction I think I could probably stop there. People who've never experienced addiction, but also people who have never experienced addiction to food probably cannot relate, because you think, oh, food is not a narcotic. Like, food's not a drug. Food's not alcohol. Food's not, any of those things. So how could you possibly be addicted to it in the same way? And talk to any food addict, or a good majority of people who go through weight loss surgery, and they will say that, yeah, they do believe in food addiction, and they do believe that they suffer from it in a lot of different ways. So I thought that, a good chunk of the book explaining that food addiction is a real thing and why was helpful for some background information, but not super necessary, because I believe in it, and I think that I am a food addict. The other part of it being sort of recognizing and determining if you might be a food addict. So again, it was helpful for some context, but for me, I didn't end up pulling as much from the book as I thought I would, because a lot of it was like, yeah, I think that applies to me. And I think I already knew that to some extent, but there was a lot of good information, and what I really enjoyed was that she delved into a lot of other resources that once you recognize you may be a food addict, these are some other resources that will be beneficial to you and some things that you can do about it. And so that's really where I was super, super happy. I wrote down a bunch of the recommended books and different topics to go into. So I really recommend reading this book if you struggle with food. And where I'm at now is trying to move from the recognition part of this and identifying that, yes, I think this applies to me, and yes, I have past trauma and shame and issues that I need to deal with that contribute to the issue with food addiction that need to be treated. Those are the underlying issues that lead to food addiction, which is why I have always been advocating that mental health is the more important and more difficult and more essential part of this journey than the food itself. What weight loss surgery has helped me with is being able to stop when I want to binge or when I want to use food as a coping mechanism. Weight loss surgery has allowed me to have a reset of sorts on my system, where I do get full and hunger cues where I didn't really have those before. It has allowed me to recognize when I am actually hungry, when I am actually full, and it has allowed me when I try to use food to cope to stop me sooner than I was pre-surgery. I could just eat and eat and eat and eat pre-surgery, thousands and thousands and thousands of calories. I physically can't do that now. But as I've mentioned, and as this book mentions, weight loss surgery does not fix food addiction. It does not cure that. So I still need to work on those underlying issues that lead me to overeat and to cope with food and the things that led me down this road in the first place. And so that's what I'm working with my therapist now, and just trying to do some interpersonal work to determine what may have caused that, what trauma specifically, what still needs to be addressed to help nurture myself and help me get to the point where I don't want to rely on external forces to cope with things that I'm feeling and unresolved trauma and conflict. So that's where I've been. That's what I've been working on. I've been reading a lot of books and doing a lot of like I said, interpersonal work and just kind of looking within and trying to figure out how to appropriately deal with these things. And that's a lot of work, and it's really hard. And I went through a chunk of time for the first few weeks that I was coming to terms with some of this stuff, really feeling like crap and really feeling awful, and in a lot of pain, because I was recognizing that I did not like myself on a deeper level, and I hadn't for years, and that's really hard to come to terms with, because I was insistent, and I had convinced myself that I did not have a self-esteem issue, and that I did actually, deeply like myself, although I think all of us wax and wane on how we feel at any given time. Self-esteem is not going to be a constant. But I really was convinced that I did not have deep self-esteem issues, and I hadn't for a long time. And I think I've come to terms with this realization that what I did is I buried that really deep. I got to this point where it was such a part of me, and it was so ingrained and so buried, that I didn't recognize it as self-esteem issues. It was just a part of me, and I just didn't fundamentally like myself or feel like I deserved things and was worthy of things. And so when you come to terms with that and you start to realize that that is really the bulk of what's going on here, and I fundamentally didn't like myself, and I had convinced myself otherwise, like, that's a really tough thing to come to terms with, when you realize that you feel something so deeply that you didn't even acknowledge that you felt that way. So that's what I've been going through, and that's painful, you guys. That is so painful. And this is why this process, when you're doing it the right way, is so hard, because I was crying, I was hurting, I was realizing that I haven't been treating myself well, and the reason I haven't been treating myself well is because of that. When you have a deep fear that other people don't like you, and then you realize that you don't like you, that is so traumatic. It's so traumatic to experience. So I wanted to shed some light on that, because I think these are important conversations. I think these are important things, because I think that they're a lot more universal to people that are experiencing food addiction, loss of control with food, poor coping skills, struggling with weight, struggling, with all these things that all of us who are here on this channel most likely all experience. I think that they're a lot more universal than we give them credit for. And I want to talk about what I am experiencing and talk about what I am recognizing as these deep-seated issues that are coming up when I'm trying to figure out how to move forward. So that's what I've been dealing with the past few weeks. I am just now coming out, I think, of that cloud of feeling really self-conscious and sad about what I was realizing, and now ready to tackle it. Now I'm ready to face it and figure out, okay, where do I go from here? But for a few weeks there, it was really rough, and it was just a fundamental sadness I was experiencing, that the only thing you can do is just feel it. Allow yourself to feel it, and allow yourself to deal with it so that you can move forward. I don't even remember where I was. I pulled into my office and had my meetings, and so now I'm trying to get rearranged with the thought that I had, and I don't remember what it was. So what I will say is I did make an observation while I was talking with one of my clients, and I think it's along the same lines of everything I've kind of been talking about, and I thought it might be a good example to explain some of this. So because it's Christmas time and I've been making Christmas cookies and things, I usually do give those out as gifts, as well as bring the parties and stuff. And I decided today, I have a client I've been working with for many years, so I wanted to bring her a few of the Christmas cookies that I made, just because I thought it would be nice, and I like giving them as gifts. and I've been working with her for a long time. So I brought them, and she was very grateful. She said, thank you, that's so sweet. And she said, oh, did you do these yourself? These look so nice. And I said, yeah, it's about the only real hobby I have. So, and I noticed that I'm very dismissive about things like that, which I know is fairly common. It's hard for people to take compliments for themselves, and I acknowledge it's not a new phenomenon or a new thing that happens, but I think it's a pretty good example of how I behave and how I operate, because I did the same exact thing when I brought them as gifts on Monday to several coworkers of mine when we got together for lunch. And everybody there at least had my cookies before. They knew that I did them. They were excited that I brought more this year because I gave them some last year. So it wasn't that initial surprise of people who find out that I do that for the first time. However, I still was very dismissive. There were a lot of comments of, do you ever sell these? Have you ever considered selling them? No, I don't know. It's just a little hobby of mine. And there's just something about this inherent feeling of not only just not wanting to take a compliment, feeling uncomfortable with somebody complimenting, that you do something well, but feeling like, I think that there's probably an element of feeling like I'm undeserving in some way of receiving that compliment and being good at something. There's absolutely nothing wrong with just being and acknowledging that I am good at cookie decorating. I've put a lot of time and energy into it. I have practiced and gotten better over the years. I feel like it's slightly more than just I have a hard time taking the compliment. I really feel like there's something deeper there where I seek, as a general sense, people to like me and think that I'm good at things, but also feeling like I'm not inherently worthy of that kind of praise and that kind of attention. So what it does is sort of create this desire and this push within me to constantly do things, to be good at them, and striving to be good and efficient and creative and have people like me and know that I'm good at things, but at the same time knowing that no matter how hard I try, no matter how hard I do that, deep down, I don't really believe that I'm still worthy of that, despite how much of my time and effort and life goes into trying really hard to do that. I feel like that's just skimming the surface a little bit, but I wanted to give a bit of an example about what I mean. There are these deep running issues and self-esteem concerns and things that I don't really notice until you start to do this work, until you start to do the work and put the effort into acknowledging and looking deeper, and suddenly you start to realize that these things pop up all over the place, and maybe these are the things that I need to start to recognize and work on for that bigger change and the bigger healing that ultimately I am seeking and trying to do here. In the same sort of realm, I am ready to do some of that really hard emotional work, the mental health work. I'm feeling like I'm kind of over that initial shock, and I'm ready to do the work and ready to try to change and change my life and my feelings, my emotions for the better. And in the same respect, and it's probably absolutely hand in hand, I am ready to tackle my weight loss again. I'm ready to acknowledge and take on my food addiction. I'm ready to really truly change my relationship with food and how I approach things in my life from a standpoint of betterment. I really think that I'm ready to do the hard work. I have not shied away from these difficult concepts and the introspection and working on those things, but I don't think I've really rolled up my sleeves and been ready to do the really hard stuff yet. And I think I'm finally at that point where I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to tackle it. For any of you who have been following around and watching this every year, I am very reflective around this time of year, and going into the new year, I am always trying to figure out, what did I do last year? What did I accomplish? What do I want to accomplish in the coming year? Not from a resolution standpoint, just from a growth and a change standpoint. And so I really feel like I am getting the stage set for 2023 on what I really plan to do and to tackle. Try to figure out who I really want to be and how to make that change happen. So thank you so much for watching. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing and continuing to support my channel and come back to my videos. It means so much to me. And if you're not yet a subscriber, I just ask that if you find yourself coming back to my content, if you do want to support my channel and the videos that I'm putting out, just consider hitting the subscribe button to show your support. It's the best way to support me and my channel. So as always, stay happy and healthy and always look at the big picture, and I will